The demonstration I want to show you today is the shading scale sheet that is attached to the drawing vocabulary. And on this, you're going to end up taking this off, tearing it off, and turning it in when you're done. Make sure you put your name on it so that you get a grade when you turn it in. The first thing I want to point out to you is the drawing pencil numbering system. So they are labeled on each pencil, and on here it has a description. So 2H is the hardest graphite. So what you're going to want to do every time you go grab a pencil is look for the number and letter that is at the top of your pencil. It means something. It's not just there for fun. So 2H, that's the hardest graphite. So that means you are going to have a light value when you shade with it. So what I want you to do is practice shading with each pencil just to get a feel for how different they are. Even with just, if you put the same amount of pressure down and do a little bit of shading, you're going to feel how each one is different. So the next one is an HB, which if you notice here in parentheses, it's also a number 2 pencil. So that is your regular average yellow pencil that you use for tests and whatnot. So even if you don't have your pencil box, you can always do some shading with a number 2 pencil. You can get it usually a pretty good range of shading with your number 2 pencil or your HB. So it's a medium hardness. It's not super hard, it's not super soft. Now the next level up is B. So I always associate B with bold, and that means it's going to start getting a little bit softer. So a medium soft graphite is your 2B, so the lower the number, the less soft, the higher the number, the softer it gets, or the darker value you can get, and then it goes in the opposite direction with your H's. So your 2H pencil, that's going to be the lightest pencil we have, but you can go to a store and get all the way up to like an 8H pencil, and that is going to be a very hard pencil. It's going to be really great for drawing lines, and very, particular detailed things. But for shading, we like to have a nice range. And so we just use these 4 pencils to give you a pretty good range. So you can see, putting the same amount of pressure down, the 2B pencil is already getting a little bit darker than the 2H and the HB. So the last one, you'll have either a 5B or a 6B pencil in your box. This is a soft graphite. This is going to be the softest pencil that we use. It's actually one of my favorites because I really like the soft, dark pencils. Sort of feels like butter when you're shading with it. So I am using a 6B. You might have a 5B, but either way, that's going to be your darkest value. So again, 6B, think B for bold, if that helps you remember. So what I want you to do, we're going to start with our HB pencil for all of the different shading, and you can go in and add some of the different pencils on top to create the values that you need. But I'm going to start with an HB pencil just because that's your sort of mid-range pencil that we're going to use. And what we're going to start with is the gradual shading. So when you do gradual shading, you want it to change gradually from dark to medium, dark to light. And you want to have a nice range of values within each one of your boxes. So you'll notice each one has an example, and then you're going to do your best to recreate that example in the box on the right. So when you're doing gradual shading, you don't want to see the pencil marks on it. You want it to look very smooth, going from dark to light, the transitions being very minimal in what you can see. Now when you start shading for gradual shading, you want to make sure you shade in one direction. You don't want to start shading in one direction and then change it all of a sudden. It's going to break up that sense of gradualness from one value to another. So what I recommend doing is choose the direction you're going to go in, and then I'm starting with my dark value. I'm trying to go around the edges as carefully as I can. And notice I'm also using very small, short movements with my pencil. And I also recommend that you start out with a medium pressure. You don't want to get too heavy. You also don't want to press down so hard you indent the paper. You don't want to emboss it. It will also end up being shiny if you press down too hard. And we're looking for dark, not shiny. Shiny becomes reflective and it's going to look lighter than it should. So as I move from left to right, I'm starting with my darker value and I'm going to start to get lighter, so I'm going to put less pressure down with my pencil. I can always go back in when I'm done and make adjustments with other pencils and with one of my erasers. In your pencil box, you're going to have a pink eraser and a kneaded eraser. The kneaded eraser is going to be really great for any minor value changes you need to make. And your pink eraser is going to be great for cleaning up around the edges or any large areas you need to lighten up. So as I get from the left dark area to the middle, I need to be getting into that medium value range. So I'm putting less and less pressure down. I'm not getting too dark though. I didn't get really dark in my dark area, so I am going to have to go back in there with one of my darker pencils to darken it up without pressing down too hard. Now as I get over to the right, I'm going to lighten up the pressure and just really lightly put in that value until I get all the way to the edge. And then I'm going to go in and clean up anything and adjust my values. Now right now when I'm looking at it, it's all pretty much the same value in this area. I need to get a little bit darker. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my 2B pencil so I can darken up my dark values. So I can just go back over my dark values. I'm not pressing down super hard. I'm just layering. Layering is also going to help get rid of any pencil lines. If you go back over any edges and see when you squint at your shading, your box here, that's one of the strategies. Squinting can help you see the values and transitions better than just looking at it like you have been. So if you see any abrupt changes from light to dark, you want to go back over with your pencil and fix it up. Now, if you get a little bit outside of the box, that's okay. You can clean that up with your pink eraser, but don't do it intentionally, because otherwise you're going to have to do a lot of erasing and cleaning up and trying to make sure that it's all not able to be seen when you're done. So use really good control around those edges. I'm trying to get it just a little bit darker in my dark value. In my medium dark, I'm blending in my 6B on top of my 2B. And then I'm even going to go in with my 2H pencil just to lightly blend things out in my light values and fill in some areas in my dark. So what I'm going to do next is clean up around my edges. I'm going to use my pink eraser. Oops, see? And then I even need to be a little bit more careful. I'm going to have to go back in and fix that. But I'm going to clean up around my edges. Go back in and fix my little boo-boo there. And then I'm even going to go in with my kneaded eraser and lighten up my light value just a smidge. Now, the great thing about your kneaded eraser, you can pull it apart. You can make very specific points with it to add highlights, but you can also just use it to lighten things up just slightly. So the pink eraser is going to take away more value. The kneaded eraser, I can just sort of dab and it'll pick up just a little bit of value. And I'm going to go back in just because I'm being sort of picky with myself here and just show that blend just a little bit better. And that is the Gradual Shaded Value Scale.